Mr. Mark Selby, how are you, sir?
Mr. Matthew Gordon, doing very well.
I'm glad to hear it. You look in basic surrounds, shall we say. Are you up at camp or something?
I am, I am in Timmins. We get together as a group once a month, because we've got people who work all over from various parts of Canada. So we all come into Timmins for a week. So we're in the midst of that right now. So I'm in my hotel room at Cedar Meadows just outside Timmins.
Cedar Meadows. Is it a nice hotel? How's the jacuzzi?
It is, yeah.
Jacuzzi,
no, it's a great setup.
Jacuzzi, gym, ballroom, usual?
Good food. Yeah, I think they do. I haven't seemed to get to either of those yet, but
okay.
I will try at one point.
Okay, well, I really appreciate it. It's a good internet connection. Let's be thankful for that. Well, look, thanks for dialing in the midst of meeting the team up there and so forth. But look, this week we're going to talk about a few more companies, a few new names. Yep. I'm liking the new names. It's always good to get new names on board. Things for people to look at, and we're going to talk a little bit of market as well. So, do you want to start market? Give people a sense of what's going on out there. So, nickel prices, interesting times at the moment.
Yeah. So, at the start of the year, I said we're going to dip below $9 a pound, most likely during the first part of the year, and we've now reached that. I didn't quite see it happening the way it has in terms of the recession coming, but the big driver to my view was always, we have a huge amount of NPI coming on in Indonesia in the first half of the year, and with a little pause in the supply chain on the battery side, combining for some first half weakness, which again, by the second half of the year, with the EV market starting to restock and re-ramp up again as EV sales just continue to be very strong, we think, prices should move higher from there. So, we just touched under $9 a pound and a bounce back up to the $20,000 a ton, bounce back up to 21,000 range right now. I wouldn't be surprised over the next 6 weeks here, because this is a slow time in the summer, and there's still a lot of wait and see. People nervous about how the global economy is going to emerge in the latter half of the year. So I think we'll bounce off that $9 a pound number, dip below it a few more times before September, October, November. We should start to move higher from there. One number that kind of spooked the market, INSG put out their monthly report, and I think they had a demand down and production up big, which again, expecting the big up from Indonesia, but they implied a surplus of 20,000 tons for the month, which when you analyze it is 240,000 tons a month. 240,000 tons for the year. That's not going to happen. You're going to see NPI discounts blow out in China over the next month or two here, which will squeeze off any surplus in that part of the market. And Indonesia was up big. It's up 40% versus where we were a year ago to about a 1.2 million ton per annum run rate. Which again is in line with what I was expecting to come down in the market. How
does Indonesia react to these kind of fluctuations in the marketplace? Does it just go full bore? This is what we're pumping out, deal with it market. We're the alpha dog in this equation, or is there some kind of tolerance adjustment either way, depending on what's going on out there?
Yeah, no, Indonesia is the alpha dog. They basically will pump it all out, and again, what we'll have to give is NPI production in China. So the discounts on that, because it can't be shipped out of China. And so we are already at a big discount given what was happening in the market, which is again in line with my expectations. But I think you'll see those discounts widen even further, and that will cause the Chinese producers to squeeze to get to shut down to make room for all of the nickel that's coming from Indonesia.
Okay. And so is there an expectation from China, given the just come out of COVID lockdown, well, to a large extent have come out of COVID lockdown, they're sort of signaling that they probably won't go back to those sorts of hard lockdowns again going forward. I mean, that's got to be a positive for the marketplace, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. I mean, again, right now there was more lockdowns in different areas of China over the last few weeks. So again, that's spooking the market. There's obviously the mortgage stuff that's going on in China right now. So there's still a lot of noise in the marketplace, which again I think is causing people to sit on their hands. But the good thing is that we have really not seen any inventory buildup in the chain. So stainless inventories are falling, or inventories are falling at a time of year when they should actually be going up. And LME inventories, fell another 5% this week. So, I would be nervous that the rebound I'm thinking will happen in the second half of the year. If all those inventories are starting to pile up, and say, okay, well, maybe that bounce, gets pushed out to 2023. But, with inventories in decent shape, and again, EV sales are rocketing, EV production is rocketing. The EV chain probably got ahead of itself last year in terms of stockpiling, so they're busy working down their internal inventories. But once that happens, and they come back to the market in a market that's growing at 50 to 100% a year, you are going to start to see some real pickup in nickel demand in the latter part of this year.
Well, actually, you touched upon an interesting thing there. As we talked about last week, EV sales are up way above anything anyone expected, and OEMs are like, they are fully committed to eradicating ICE engines, right? They're gone, and they make it as difficult as possible for people to kind of hang on to that kind of legacy there, which will be a bit of a shame. But given that full commitment, the hundreds of billions of dollars being spent there. And we've discussed this when we were talking about Canada Nickel earlier today, and we had a conversation about that, which is the way that these OEMs start to look at the market. And I thought we had an interesting conversation with you with regards to perhaps do these carbon credit components change the nature of the discussions that they could have with you, or they may want to have with you, because it brings a different aspect, a different narrative, quite frankly, a very positive component to their story, which is, let's face it, they're a big industrial complex. And you said, well, potentially. I mean, maybe just give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so nickel supply has a real massive carbon footprint issue. Most of all the supply that I'm talking about going up 40% growth in Indonesia is, comes with 50 to 80 tons of CO2 per ton of nickel that gets produced. The news we put out today, we've come up with a different way of actually carbonating the rock that has the property, these ultramafic nickel deposits that spontaneously absorb carbon. And so, we are looking like we can generate 20 tons of carbon credits for every ton of nickel that we produce. So, with auto companies very focused on making sure that they can, they're going to be part of the EV transition, that, the next generation of car buyers, those are the kind of cars they want to have, because they are concerned about the planet. And so, being in a position where you can deliver actually not just zero carbon nickel, but some nickel with even some carbon credits attached to it, we think is going to be a big differentiator in the marketplace. And, that these class of deposits, not just Crawford, but this class of ultramafic nickel deposits like FBX and Giga and some of the others in British Columbia have as well. They are going to be the nickel supply of choice, for the next 100 years. For the nickel market.
Yeah, but I'm kind of interested that there's a kind of conflation of ideas. Do you know what I mean? Because we're an industry and we're making cars like we've always made cars. We're going to make them of a slightly different construction now. We've always been able to go to metal traders, buy what we want. The speed at which things are moving are making some of these automotive companies step a little bit further upstream and say, well, we would like to be talking to some of these mining groups and perhaps put our finger on some of this lithium, some of this cobalt, etc. We've not kind of seen any big moves with nickel or copper yet. But again, do you think this confluence of ideas, thematics will advance that? Do you think it's more likelihood than anything else?
Oh, 100%. I mean, we're having those conversations now with some of those groups, and again, just some of the metrics. One Korean group, their target for North America is 250 to 500,000 tons of nickel per annum that they need just for their battery plants in North America. And in North America today, we can produce and consume roughly 150,000 tons of nickel. There's another group in Korea that doesn't buy anything from that first group. Their need for nickel, by 2030 or so is in the 180,000 ton of nickel range. There's nowhere near that amount of nickel supply in the pipeline, particularly outside of Indonesia. And they realize, as they watch with lithium, which, people think is everywhere, and it is everywhere, they realize that if they don't help provide some of the capital, that these nickel projects just aren't going to come into production anywhere quickly enough, to be able to get the nickel they need, and as much as Crawford, is going to be the fifth largest resource in the world and be the fifth largest sulfide operation that was fully ramped up today, these guys, would like us to have multiple Crawfords, as quickly as possible. That's the amount of nickel that they're really looking for.
Real demonstrable shortages there. If those demand numbers are to be believed, just on the examples that you gave, that's a real problem coming down the line. The other problem, which is more here than further down the line, is and you've mentioned the word a couple of times in this conversation already, which is recession. We're here in a recession, and sometimes that isn't necessarily a bad thing because it can help inform you and maybe inform your behavior. And I think as an investor show, I'm wondering, what does it tell you? Yeah, so
I saw a great chart this week, which we can hopefully post up. So the Bank of America does this global fund manager survey, and I love great contrarian indicators. And so, they basically, in the survey, one of the questions is, percent saying that a recession is likely, the net number. And this chart has basically, three very solid peaks. And one was March 2009, one was April 2020. And right now we're on our way, the third highest peak it was the current survey this month. So again, in terms of being confident that we're at a turning point, both of those time periods, those were 500% increase in mining equity values, from off of those specific months. So hopefully, I look at this as a very good contrarian indicator that says, yeah, you know what, we're getting pretty close to a bottom in terms of market sentiment that would be fully priced in. And the risk reward is going to be way to the upside, within the next couple months here. So
yeah, that's interesting. Okay, I think maybe we'll get that chart up one way or another, so people can have a look at that, and we'll see what the percent guys think. We said we promised we'd talk about a few companies as well. So I've got Lennon Metals, we've got EV Nickel, we've got Malay Resources, and we've got Talon Resources. And I think, have I covered the bases there? I think.
Yeah.
Oh no, Wallbridge as well.
And Wallbridge too. Yeah.
So why don't we why don't we kick off there with Lennon? Am I saying that?
Yeah.
Right?
So Lennon's a name that's come up a few times.
Yeah.
They're run by a very experienced explorationist who ran WMC and Goldfields exploration programs in the Kambalda area. And yeah, it's getting some great, we're finally really starting to see some great results from a few projects. And so, they're infill drilling, one of the properties they have in the Kambalda region. Again, 5 meters at 7% nickel is always a good number, and a couple other assays, in and about that range. Talon outlined another great set of results from their CGO East area, which is outside where their main resource is today. And again, very good, solid infill numbers that are going forward. The last one is EV Nickel. Again, they've been drilling their Langmuir deposit, and again, being able to pick up some extensions of from the resource that they have today. So again, some decent numbers in terms of grade and widths that are there.
Okay.
What's even more exciting is, as again said many times, we need all the nickel, and so it's good to see some new names emerge. Wallbridge, which has now been a massive gold success, but that property that they've got was originally it was gold exploration where they found some nickel, and the Grasset discovery has been one of the few new sulfide discoveries in the last 10 or 15 years, but it all got sort of overshone by this gold drilling that's there. So Wallbridge is now spinning that out into a new company called Archer, with Grasset, with their Sudbury assets. So again, those discoveries will get some more love and attention, and there's some real potential there. So keep an eye on that one as a new story. And the other one is in Australia, a company called Mali Resources has acquired the Avebury nickel mine. This was a past producing mine that operated back in the end of the last cycle back in 2007, 8, 9. Unfortunately, it succumbed to lower nickel prices. The deposit is a decent size, but it's always had a little bit of a challenge, given that it has a relatively high amount of arsenic in it. So, we'll have to, again, it's a news story, not many news stories, but we just need to keep an eye in terms of, what the mining costs are going to look like and their ability to get good payabilities on that nickel concentrate that they get produced. But again, there's very few new nickel projects outside of Indonesia, and this restart is a welcome addition to the market.
There we go. There's the roundup, folks. The world of nickel in 15 minutes. Mark, appreciate that. I better let you go and get back to your team. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good, sir. Take care.